So, Agents of Metal, Part 1, starting on page 64, Chapter 9, page 64. Jo, on the other hand, I don't know what to say about her. She just holds her own and thrashes like a maniac, Renee went on. Yeah, sometimes so much that I forget what song I'm playing, she replied, in a way that suggested not being comfortable with the compliment, no matter how subtle it was. A moment of silence followed. Ian did not want to talk about himself, and naturally, there was no one who could have talked about him. Well, that leaves Eric, who still hasn't spoken much. I believe he needs much heavier medication before he opens his mouth. But anyway, Eric's the one of us that wants to be a true Nietzschean overman, Jo said while poking Eric with her shoulder. You shouldn't speak of things you don't understand, Eric said, beer foam in his beard. A fool would easily think it's just about working out huge muscles and feeling superior to everyone. Well, I guess it's also that, but what it really is, it's being able to let go, to not need faith or certainty in anything existing, and to create your own morals. That seemed like a worthwhile goal, Ian thought. However, did creating your own values and morals mean that you could, for example, decide that killing someone else was perfectly okay? He was not fully certain of the philosophical implications, and did not want to ask for the risk of making a fool out of himself. Therefore, he just drank his beer instead, as did Eric. In fact, he was already on to his second. Jo had already finished her second. Okay, so Jo's a her. Jo had already finished her second and was clearly in an unusually jolly mood. Of course, he's not only a philosopher, she continued, but also a genuine survivalist. He once told us he has enough weapons and ammo stashed at his forest cabin to survive through World War III. That's where he disappears if he gets bored or angry during a rehearsal. And while Renee fumes like crazy, we can't be sure when he will return. So we can't be sure when he will return, if he will. And we can't go after him. He hasn't told where the cabin is, and probably never will. Survivalism is not a matter of laughs. I naturally hope that I never have to use that stuff. But if and when I have to, you'll be sorry for not being prepared yourself when you had the chance. It was then Lucas wandered into... So, Lucas, who the hell is Lucas? It was then Lucas wandered into the shark as well. It was then Lucas wandered into the shark as well. He looked surprised. Okay, the shark is the bar. Or whatever. Club. He looked surprised. It had to be from seeing Ian in new company. Okay. Hey, good to see your face around. Well, do you remember Cyber Priest? Ian asked him. Lucas nodded cautiously. Here I am now, as their second guitarist. Okay. Lucas stayed reasonably calm. Year of hard work pay off at last? Maybe, or then it just took me this long to learn how to be arrogant enough. Is it the band of your visions then? Lucas asked. Though Ian's vision had been intensely private at some point, in some deep state of intoxication, he had apparently shared it. Okay. Yes, it doesn't get truer than this. Though we're not really going to be thrash metal anymore, but war metal. Hey, that's classified yet. That's classified yet. Joe interrupted with a frown that was open to interpretation. It could be humorous or then deathly serious. No, it's not really, Renee said in a bellowing voice most of the patrons in immediate vicinity had to hear. I don't mind if the word spreads. That just creates more pressure for us to actually produce the war metal of our dreams. Something that's above and beyond anything imagined. I mean, I don't want just a goddamn mosh pit. I want a fucking battlefield. Renee was obviously crazy drunk or both. But Ian understood that if he was that passionate about his own vision, then greatness would possibly come out of it, or a catastrophic epic failure. But either way was infinitely better than safe, dull mediocrity. Ian knew another possibly still classified piece of information, one that he wanted to share. Ian knew another one. Alexa, play some piano music.
The station Relaxing Piano Radio on Amazon Music.
Lucas, however, reacted first. Well, I see you've got some interesting things going on here, he said, but you don't necessarily need me. No, you're not going anywhere, Ian protested. Not at least until I tell you that on Tuesday, next week, Cyber Priest is returning to Hades Club. And you do well to come watch us play. Lucas was taken by surprise again. Never could have guessed it would be that soon. I mean, don't you have to rearrange the songs for 2 guitars? Sounds crazy, but yeah, I will be coming. I swear that on my left testicle. Wise decision. Better be there than or we come at night with rusty scissors, Ian exclaimed. Lucas shook his head and a slight grin spread on his face. Then he was gone. The rest of the week went by in a blur. There was another rehearsal, the second to last before the show. Ian was by now completely familiar with all existing Cyberpriest songs. To the rest, it certainly was an unusual pace of learning, but they were not complaining. He could start adding his own nuances, chord inversions, and harmonies to the song, which further deepened the band's sound. Renee had expressed some initial disapproval, but soon accepted Ian's creativity, and even went as far as to say that Ian already possessed the concept of war metal and was on the same wavelength as far as the development of their music was concerned. The odd thing was that Renee himself had not given any concrete musical examples so far. Ian had just been going by his instinct. On an otherwise quiet Sunday afternoon, Jo made good of her promise and tried to transfer some of her knowledge in metal soloing to Ian. There they were in Cyberpriest concrete bunker, both half-stacks turned to a bare minimum master volume. Most of the 2-power wasted. She succeeded to some degree, Ian thought, for as their session was nearing its end. He felt like he already had a better command of the whole fretboard, a better grasp of how to build a kind of story within the framework of a solo. However, it surprised him how much more diverse musician she actually was. In Cyberpriest, at least in the current songs, she only ever got to show her most aggressive side, though she seemed almost ashamed when he caught her playing something slower and more melodic. It's nothing, she said, then continued with some mad breakneck speed blasphemous playing again. Now Ian could finally be certain she did not harbor any hidden resentment for him joining the band and stealing away the sole guitarist spotlight. But he had also been right that there had to be more to her than the straightforward, hard-thrashing, hard-drinking, guitar action girl she appeared to be. That short, melodic passage and the look on her face that went with it had confirmed it. In a way, it was funny. She was the band member he had spent most time with so far and was most comfortable with. Eric was still scary, and Renee felt like a boss or something, yet he knew least of her. Okay, chapter 10, page 69. On the eve of their show, Hades Club was not as packed as last time, but this time it was full of dedicated metalheads, eager to pit hard, but not necessarily to put up actual fights. Cyberpriest would hit the stage after Beautiful Flowers, a brutal new school thrash band, and Intestinal Parasite Disgorge, a mixture of medical death metal and grindcore with a severe self-destructive attitude. Ian felt a pleasant yet frightening buzz at the pit of his stomach. To make sure he was in proper condition to play, he had kept his consumption to 1 beer. This was the night of his introduction to the Hessian public. Though during a show unexpected things could always be wrong, the expected should be kept firmly in control. Therefore, there were new strings on his guitar, properly stretched to remain in tune. He knew he should have had a backup guitar, but had not wanted to take the Charvel with him. Who knew if it would have brought bad luck? The backstage room was a dirty mess, full of obscene graffiti. An indescribable smell lingered in the air, and he did not want to speculate on its specific ingredients. Each of the band members was preparing in his or her own way. Eric doing air drumming. Okay, Eric. Joe running complex scales up and down the guitar neck. Joe. And Renee humming along, doing the occasional unexpected death grunt that would make Ian's neck hair stand in attention. The noisy performance of the bands before them carried to the backstage. Extreme speed and aggression ruled the night, and they did not want to be any worse. The thrashing set list of Beautiful Flowers reached its cacophonous climax. Recorded music continued as the band started to tear down its gear. Frightened? Renee asked Ian. No way, he said. The answer roughly 50% truthful. In lack of better things to do, Ian too picked up his guitar and started a warm-up routine. It was not terribly methodical, but better than nothing. Before long, Intestinal Parasite Disgorge started their barrage of heavily down-tuned noise and infernal grunting. Apparently feeling somewhat bored already, Renee and Joe both opened another bottle of beer while Eric remained alert and sober. Ian went over to him. Throughout the rehearsals, though there had been a single compliment, Eric had remained somewhat hostile or at best indifferent toward him. Ian was sure nothing he would say could possibly change that, at least overnight. But he wanted to try connecting with him in some way. You guitarists have it easy. You can drink a lot more, Eric said. Yeah, playing drums must be a lot more physical. You can't do it if you're drunk out of your mind, Ian replied. Some actually can. Maybe I could as well, but I'm not risking it, at least tonight. Why is that? Well, it's the first show we do as a four-piece. I'd rather want it to go well. Fully agreed on that. Ian settled down in between the band members, still holding his guitar. No more words were spoken as the grindcore set continued on the stage. Ian knew that some bands had all sorts of elaborate pre-show bonding rituals and was glad Cyberpriest did not have them. As far as he was concerned, it was sissy bullshit. At last, the final down-tuned chord faded out to nothingness, and intestinal parasite disgorge started removing their equipment. There was a friendly agreement between the bands that they would only replace the snare drum, cymbals, and guitar amplifier heads. This greatly simplified the logistics. Soon that band was finished and entered the warmth of the backstage. That meant it was Cyberpriest's turn to go. Ian felt a surge of adrenaline. He picked his amplifier head by its handle while his other hand gripped the guitar. They all rose up and navigated the short maze from the backstage to the stage. That meant it was Cyberpriest's turn to go. Ian felt a surge of adrenaline. He picked his his amplifier head by its handle while his other hand gripped the guitar. They all rose up and navigated the short maze from the backstage to the stage. Jo carried her amp head and guitar too, while Eric had his hands full with the snare and the cymbals stashed inside a couple of bags. Renee had it easiest with just the bass guitar to carry. The bass amplifier was from Beautiful Flowers, and it was okay that all bands tonight used it. The stage was yet dark as they entered. Without wasting much time, everyone began to set up one's personal equipment. Ian had some trouble finding the proper places to insert the both ends of the speaker cable. However, once that was sorted out, he powered the head to standby, just like at the rehearsal space. He adjusted the settings of the amp's lead and lead boost channels to how he thought they should be, as well as checking out the tuning one last time with a battery-powered tuning meter. Then he handed the tuner to Jo. Neither of them used a multi-effect unit. They just relied on the channel switching functionality of their amps. Theoretically, he was now ready to thrash. Eric took a longer time to install his snare and cymbals and to adjust the drum kit to his liking. Renee had been ready all along, getting impatient and agitated. But before long, they all were ready. The amps were on, with just the guitar volumes turned to 0. Harold himself climbed on stage to announce the band. From the sewers, from the concrete bunkers of the underworld, comes the thrash juggernaut the dealing hammer of war, cyber priest. The crowd roared. Harold walked off. The lights switched on, and Joe started the Tormentor riff. They had decided to play it somewhat safe and start with already established crowd favorite. The rest joined in. The circus beat ricocheting off the walls and tearing the place apart. Already a few seconds from the start, Ian could see a mad, sweaty mosh pit breaking loose in the crowd. His wrist was handling the speed fine. It was already becoming routine, not keeping him constantly His wrist was handling the speed fine. It was already becoming routine, not keeping him constantly on the edge anymore. Then it hit. The thought that had not yet entered his mind. Was Lucas in the club? Ian tried to scan the sides where the table stood, as it was improbable Lucas would venture close to the front, but was not able to concentrate in the thrashing madness. The verses went by at lightning speed, followed by Joe's solo. The song slowed down to the breakdown as the stage lighting became more constant. Ian scanned the crowd again. This time he saw him, standing there in the middle with his hands in a bunch, in a classic rock police pose, was Lucas. He had made it here. Ian could skip cutting off his best friend's left testicle. The song ended and Renee addressed the crowd. Thank you. As you may see, we have a new guitarist here on my right side. Say hello to Ian. The crowd roared again in response. Next, they kicked off with Hate Beyond Hate, a mid-tempo number. As if on hidden cue, Joe went over to the stage center and Ian joined her. They headbanged in unison along to the beat. Renee began to spit out the hateful words like a man possessed. Though the song was broodingly evil for most of its length, it contained a complex 4-part solo section where the tempo went up and the guitars would trade solos. Ian started with Whammy Bar Madness, climbing from the low end of the fretboard up to the high octave. Joe continued with a skilled sextuplet run, which descended slowly and determinedly in the middle octave range, each note sharply picked. Ian followed and made an epic mistake. His right hand tremolo picked another string compared to what his left hand was fretting. However, he was sure no one in the crowd realized and salvaged the situation by continuing with a chaotic artificial harmonic pattern. Joe's second solo was the final one. It was a Deicide-like run. It was a deicide-like run from the depths of hell, concluding with tremolo bar insanity of her own. The four on stage, all of them, were possessed. A thrash metal unit playing as one, striving to transfer this possession to the crowd. The crowd did not, however, need much encouraging. Despite the moderate tempo, a circle pit had formed. Okay, I'll stop there. Page 74.